Melanie, and welcome back to the Lit Review. Today we're going to do the New Year Booktuber tag. This is a tag that I have seen making the rounds. I've seen Sam from Books with Samantha do the tag, and then I think Jess from Peace Love Books XO also did the tag. I'll link their videos down below, as well as the video from the original creator of this tag, whose name is escaping me. I am terribly sorry, but I will put this up here somewhere on the screen so that they can get credit for starting this tag and making it do the thing. I thought this would be a really great reintroduction since I've kind of re-energized this channel, and since hopefully many of you are either coming back and joining me here, or maybe you're new. This would be a great way to get to know each other again in this new year of 2023. I've got the questions written down here in my handy dandy planning notebook. But question one is, what are you most excited about in 2023? There's probably a lot of things that I'm really excited for, but the two that come to mind are, one, building out my bookshelves. Now that we have the house, there's like a little corner of our living room that I want to do like some fake built-in looking bookshelves and kind of like not quite build the bookshelf of my dreams, because I think the bookshelf of my dreams is literally just a room full of bookshelves, and we don't have so much space that that's the case. But I'm gonna like turn that little corner of our living room into a little mini library, and I am really excited about that. I'm kind of saving up to do that right now because it is going to be a little pricey, but that's what I'm really pumped about for 2023. This is gonna sound so silly, but I think it'll be relatable for so many of you. Painting. I'm really excited about painting because I've lived in an apartment for my entire adult life, and I know that some people can and do paint in their apartments, but I was never comfortable doing that. It felt like a huge risk. So like, this room is probably gonna stay white, but the room that I end up pivoting us into is probably gonna get painted a color. Like the rest of the house is kind of this really pretty sage, somewhere between sage and seafoam green. And so I really like that color, but the color, I don't know, I'm still figuring that part out, but I'm gonna paint the room that we end up in together. And that's deeply exciting to me. So question number two is, do you have a Goodreads or Storygraph challenge goal, and why that number? So my goal this year is to read 100 books. That was also my goal last year and the year before. I don't always meet the goal. Last year I excelled and got to like 129. But I also realized when I was looking at like my little map on Storygraph of when I was reading the most, I was literally reading the most books when I was having like the steepest mental health crisis last year. So I ran the numbers and it turns out that when my brain is healthy and happy, I am reading on average like 7 books a month. And so 7 times 12 is 84. And I think it's within reason that sometimes when you just read a bunch of short things, like that's just, your numbers go up. But I think 100 is like a reasonable stretch goal for somebody who is trying to get their mental health balanced. That's why it's 100. And that's why it's probably going to stay at 100. Even if I continue to excel and like crush my reading goals, like that's totally fine. But I think continuing to one-up myself every year is actually very dangerous for my mental health, and can kind of suck the joy out of reading. So 100 it is. Number 3. List 3 5-star predictions. Now, I have a whole video of this that I'm gonna put out, so I won't go too far down that because I'm only making 6 predictions in that video, so I don't really want to spoil that for you. But I will say among those 6, 3 of them are romances, 1 of them is YA, 1 of them is a historical, and 1 of them is nonfiction. Question number 4. What genre, subgenre, or trope do you want to read more of in 2023? Easy! I want to read more Why Choose romances. 2022 was the year that I really dove deep into Why Choose romances, and in particular really fell in love with Catherine Moon. I've been discovering more authors that do really fun stuff within this kind of trope or subgenre. But Why Choose romances, if you've never read any before, are literally where the female main character does not have to choose between her love interests. It is, I think, the natural progression for those of us as teenagers who are obsessed with love triangles and the angst of it, except now you get angst that gets resolved with a lot of fun times. More Why Choose Romances. If you have any recs for me, please drop them in the comments because I probably will read them. Question number 5. What trope do you think will be the most popular in 2023? Okay, so bear with me on this. So there's all this talk, right, about like the recession and how it's coming and we need to prepare, and we're already seeing things like food prices go up, and this typically impacts all of us in very different ways. Why I think that's relevant to books and the trends that we're going to see in books, I think we're going to see a little bit of a surge in stories about going back home, whether that's in litfic, in thrillers, in romances, whatever it is. I think we're going to see more people like returning to home, kind of like a less cute version of Hallmark movies where it's like the city girl who has to go back home or has to go back to the small town, because I think that's often what happens in recessions is we tend to rely on family. We tend to have family members that might ask for more support during that time. And so I think that is going to be particularly resonant as we kind of hit a recession if that prediction comes true. Specifically as a romance reader, what I think this is going to look like is we're going to see an uptick in small town romances. I think they're kind of always there. They're always a popular or semi-popular subgenre, but I think we're going to see them get more popular as more people think about like where they're living and why, and like the types of support systems that you can sometimes get in small towns or in going back home. So I think that is like my set of tropes that are kind of intertwined that are going to be more popular this year. I'd love to be wrong about that, though. I would love for us to not put our trauma quite out there in tropes, but you know, is what it is. Question number 6. What are your 3 bookish goals for the year, or list 3 bookish goals for the year? So I have done a whole video on this too, that I will link up above, but I will include one goal in my 3 that wasn't in that video because it wasn't really super relevant to the priority shelf necessarily. So the 2 goals you would have seen in that video are read 25 new to me authors. I think this is a reasonable and sustainable goal that I can knock out, and specifically 25 new to me authors from my backlist, whether that's here in physical form or whether that's things that I have bought as ebooks. But I'm not going to count like my Kindle Unlimited reading or my library reading in that way, even though they will still be new to me authors. Specifically to meet that goal, I'm going to like try to read down my TBR. My second goal from that video is to finish at least 5 series this year. Again, I was all about setting reasonable and achievable goals to get that dopamine up here. But I think 5 series is something I can reasonably accomplish throughout the year. Then the third goal that I did not mention, so this is a new, fresh goal that you're hearing for the first time. I want to be more proactive about tracking my publisher reads. In part because of all the stuff going on with Harper Collins and how unhappy I am as a bookish community member to learn about some of the unfortunate realities of working in the publishing industry. If you're curious about that, I do link supporting the Harper Collins Union in my description box, so check that out. But I also want to track where I'm reading from so that I have a better sense of my own readership as I potentially try towards, in 2024 maybe, building out like more arcs, requesting things like that, being able to say with authority, I read like X amount from your publishing house last year and I really like the things that you put out. And also it's just like a fun stat to track. So, you know, there's that. Question number 7. List 3 personal goals for the year, or what are 3 personal goals for the year of 2023? So these are not going to be bookish related at all. And one of them is to bake more. So my other favorite hobby is to bake. I love baking for myself, for my friends, and loved ones. It is how I often handle stress or show that I care to the people in my life. And I realized that in 2022, I just wasn't doing a ton of it. So I have already kind of like taken some steps towards that goal. Taking an online class from like Christina Tosi, who's the baker of Behind Milk Bar, and so I'm taking one of her classes for snackable bakes. And as I'm filming this, I am working my way through that class, so I'm already like ticking this box off a little bit, but I want to carry that momentum forward because it makes me so happy. This is like a weirdly specific goal, but I would love to see at least one movie in theaters a month. So when I first started this channel, I was working on my doctorate in cinema and media studies, and then I withdrew from my program in order to just honestly balance out my mental health, you know, support myself better. I have a lot of thoughts on leaving academia, but one of the things that happened along the way was that I stopped showing up for another thing that brought me joy, which is going to the movies. And some of that was also the pandemic, to be fair. A lot of that was also the pandemic. So I am still very concerned about things like this. I still mask up on the rare occasion that I do go to the movies, but I would like to go to the movies more often. And yeah, I want to experience that kind of joy at least once a month. Also, the third goal. So because of the pandemic, I have not been planning our wedding. And I guess that's like not just on me, that's on me and Jeremy. But you know, we've been engaged for 2 years now. We got engaged during the pandemic, and our family commonly asks, and our friends, hey, you making any progress on that? And we're like, no. I think because we were hoping that there would just get a point where it was like done, but that's not realistic now that we've lived through this, in part because my mom is immunocompromised. So like if she's going to travel to wherever we hold the wedding, or even if we were to travel to her, I want to be reasonably confident that me getting married is not going to harm my mother. So that's part of why we've held off, but I feel like we're slowly getting to a juncture where we can start making some choices, even if it's just, it's gonna be really small, it's gonna happen here, you know, like I wanna start planning this dang thing. So that's another goal for 2023, and I'm really excited about it. Final question, question number 8, is what do you want to leave behind in 2022? And I think this is a fantastic question, and it's a really emotional one. I don't know, realistically, if I will be able to accomplish these particular goals, because mental health is a roller coaster. There are ups and downs. I would really like to leave behind the immense burden of self-doubt that I carry with me every single day. That impacts so many different areas of my life, and I don't think I'll be able to get rid of it, because I think that's too much to ask in 1 year. But I would like to start setting down some of that weight, thinking that I'm not good enough, that what I do isn't good enough. That impacts my channel a lot, actually. Part of the reason that I sometimes like disappear for months on end is because I'm convinced that what I'm putting out isn't good enough, or that I've fallen behind on trends, and so I can't put certain things out, or, you know, I stopped doing certain types of unboxing videos because it was like, they just weren't getting traction, and I got too lost in my perfectionism and how that relates to the feeling of not being good enough. So I'm not gonna pretend that I can fix that in 1 year of my life, but I'd like to see some progress on leaving that behind and leaving that in the past, because oh boy, did it have a massive impact on my 2022, even though I did amazing things last year. What stands out to me when I think back of it are those moments where I felt limited by those beliefs. So that's real heavy. That's a real heavy thing to leave this video on, but that's what I'm gonna try to leave behind. As always, but particularly after that emotional moment, thank you for spending time with me. I say it at the end of every video, but it truly means the world to me if you show up and watch these videos and even get to this part of the video. So thank you for spending time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Hold on, girl, now wait just a minute. I've got something to say, you should hear it.